Rap Latte, and this is my partner, MC, the man behind $1 million in the bank, King Green.
It's King Green in here. Deeper conversations about hip hop. This is Rap Latte Live. We live on YouTube. We live on Twitch. Make sure you follow us. This is UNC CENAT. We in here. We live right now. So the head UNC. I don't know if you Uncle OG because I feel like you got more credibility than me because UNC and OG are great things. So Toure, incredible author, obviously. The journalist, one of the first. This thing I didn't know that Toure did that I love about him is he did that Rolling Stone article about Lauryn Hill that he dropped on me when we were doing the Lauryn Hill miseducation thing. And I read that article as a kid and loved that article. I remember the pictures. It was such an amazing article. So obviously we appreciate you and we're glad that you're here. Let's get into it. Let's get into
But
it.
you're on tour right now, and I love that for you. You're going to come to New York in February?
Yeah, I think next week, next Thursday. So everybody who's in New York, I know there's probably a lot of West Coast people on here because it's 2 p.m. and everybody got jobs. But if you're on the East Coast, check the tour dates. It's going to be on the in the description right now, tour dates. So I'm on tour with some real MCs, like young MCs that really love hip hop, and I'm just going to be in there rapping. I'm the Unc on tour with them. So it's good shit. Missed the whole date.
I'll definitely be in the house when you come to New York. I want to see, I want to see the whole sauce. I want to see what's really hood. I want to know from you, touring and performing, just a little bit about touring and performing from your side of the mic. Yeah. I mean, you had a crazy situation. Was it Friday? You were racing to get to a show, didn't make it. We've all had the planes, trains, and automobiles thing happen to us when we're going to, see a girlfriend or grandma or whatever it may be. But you got to do all that stuff and get to the venue and be high energy and give them the fucking funk and the science on the high energy. That's hard. Just touring is hard.
Touring is hard, and it's not just thinking about the Kendrick performance and what it means to be an actual performer. And you've seen great performers like Busta, Kendrick. I liked Jay-Z at his height. Kanye was a great performer. I'll tell you where I liked Jay-Z's performance. We'll get back into that.
Not a great performer.
No, but I liked. I'll get into that. But it was a different style of performance, and all these great performers, they love it. If you're still performing, it's because you love it. 50 Cent's performance was crazy. Me and my girl saw in Baltimore. Oh my God. But anyways, we'll go into that. As far as like it being a show, you gotta love it or you're not going to be able to do it because there's just so many things that could go wrong. Just like I'm meeting these guys. This is their tour. I'm meeting them on the tour. I said I'd do the tour with them. And you got the bus or the van that you got to join them on. They got to get merch and all that. I'm getting a flight to meet them at the first date. I missed the first flight. That was my bad. But I had other prior things. I had other things that I had to do to other engagements that I had. And then because I want to say it, but it's like I think I have signed an NDA where I can't say it. So I don't know if it's time yet. But but I was making content, and then I missed the flight, and I had to fly from BWI all the way to drive from BWI to DCEA in traffic. That's like an hour drive. Everything that went wrong went wrong. The drive had traffic. I lost my wallet. You need an ID to get on a plane, Toure. I don't know if you know this. I still don't have my wallet. Yeah, I still don't have my wallet. I had my passport.
How did you get on the plane?
I had my passport. So luckily, I try to keep my passport with me just off my mentality of touring Europe for so much. It's like you keep your passport on you. And when you're in other countries, it just makes sense to keep your passport on you. Either way, whole point is that, yes, I love performing. I don't care about anything. I don't have, people get nerves and butterflies. I don't. I talk to the crowd. I get on there. I enjoy myself. And then I get the fuck off the stage because I actually love performing. And I'm the type of person that started performing first. You know what I'm saying? So it's like most rappers, they get hot. They put out a song and then they start performing. And that's why most rappers truly do suck at performing. Truly. And
there's a lot of MCs who are not taking the stage as seriously as they're taking the studio. Yeah. Right? A lot of people who are coming up in the studio and not putting in the work and the 10,000 hours to be that on stage. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. And honestly, we got to give Wiz Khalifa credit because the idea of building your fan base, Wiz Khalifa and Tech Nine, obviously, but on a mainstream level, Wiz started building his own touring business before he was on. Like he had a hot like song on Warner or whatever like that. He got dropped. So usually when you get dropped back in the day, like 08, 07, you're gone, right? He built up a touring business, started putting out those mixtapes, and that's how we know Wiz Khalifa is because he built up that touring business. And so did Tech Nine, did the same thing. Tech Nine went completely around the industry. Motherfucker worth like 20 million right now because he built that shit himself. Yeah, it like just off of merchant touring. Tech Nine is a G.
But just talk a little bit. We don't have to name names, but a little bit about what we see from a lot of MCs that constitutes like, you're not giving us the stage show that you really should, that we are getting from a lot of our brothers and sisters who are on the R&B side of the world.
Well, in general, singing is a more communicative or a more understood talent, right? And skill set. And it's easier to convey it on stage than rapping. Sound has to be so right. The levels of the music have to be right when it comes to rapping. You got to hear and understand the words. Sometimes you're not going to understand what a rapper's saying if it's new words. But if you've never heard a song before and a person sings, you could still enjoy it because the melody and their talent level is able to enjoy it, right? Because they have that. And for a rapper, it's the same. The one thing about rapping that people seem to forget is that it's about confidence. I saw Kendrick the first time I saw him in South by Southwest. Kendrick's first performance, I didn't like it. I did not like his performance, and he was mad. It didn't seem confident, but I loved this. This was before Good Kid, Mad City, so I saw him way early, right? And I was just like, oh, people were talking about him. I was like, I mean, I like some of his songs, but I didn't like that performance at all. Fast forward, Amazon sends me and a bunch of like content creators to his show. Yeah, I plug it out. You know what I'm saying? To this show in he had 5 days in a row in LA. 5 days. Okay. So that's an arena 5 times. That's crazy, first of all. So he had, and it was 2022 for the Mr. Morale shit. That shit was excellent. Why is my nigga playing the piano, rapping, controlling a puppet while rapping, and the confidence and commanding of yourself on stage is what we're talking about. Do you command yourself, and can you command the crowd? Because it's a conversation. You're not in charge of the crowd. You're communicating with the crowd, and they're communicating back to you, and it's a reciprocal energy that makes a live show good when it comes to rapping, whereas you need that confidence more than anything, whereas singing is that talent.
I first saw Kenny. He was doing the Kung Fu Kenny tour thing. I think it was before the show that you referenced.
Yeah.
And it was thematic. It was outfits and colors. There were moments when he was on stage alone. There were moments when he was on stage with a dancer who represented, let's say, Asian culture, tying in the whole Kung Fu Kenny thing, which was this visual theme throughout the night. And I was like, wow, like you have thought through the whole thing, the clothes, the dances, the theme, the colors. There was an entire thing coming together here. And you get that in pop music and sometimes in R&B, much more than in hip hop. A lot of times in hip hop, it's just give them a mic and go out there and wreck the crowd with your energy. But are you thinking about the video behind you? Are you thinking about the meaning of the clothes? Are you thinking about, I mean, Kanye would do all those things and he would come out in an outfit that had meaning. And there was one Kanye show where the stage wasn't flat. The stage was like, had texture and nooks and crannies to it. And the visuals made it look like he had flown into outer space and landed on a planet. And then he did a song there, and then he flew to another. So the visuals were not just replicating the song. When I say Marcy, you see Marcy Avenue street sign, which is the most obvious fucking thing. But it was taking you to a place, and I'm like, this is genius, and this is holistic. A lot of MCs, they just show up with the mic and start rocking, and it's not enough.
and they're rapping over the tracks. Like I'll have like the chorus going on because like you need to beef up the chorus. There might be chorus tracks, but they're rapping over just the song. A lot of these artists, it's like play the song from Spotify and let me just rap. I'm dead ass. I've seen rappers who literally played the song from Spotify and just rapped over. It's like why are we doing? What are we doing right here? And I think the beauty of like nobody knowing you or you seeing somebody live for the first time is telling people who you are and showing people who you are. And I think that's mad important. It's just really
your boy Maz is in the chat made an interesting point. A lot of young rappers start in the studio and only know how to punch in. They aren't even used to rapping their full verse, let alone doing it on a stage, which is like an amazing point that they're not used to just rapping the song from beginning to end. And when you ask them to do that, that is an unusual experience for them.
3,000%. And you can't really blame them just because they got hot. Think about it. They're good at doing something. They got hot and now they got to convert it to bread and outside. So they have to get those reps in. The problem is when the people don't want to get those reps in, because sometimes these rappers want to go straight to the club shows where you playing over your track and getting appearances. You get 40K, but they can't sell hard tickets. So they don't want to play the small clubs like Mercury Lounge that I'm about to play on or these small clubs. You got to start there.
Here's the thing that I hear you, and I want to blame more the system or the current culture of hip hop, which makes it easier to get in the studio. I don't even know where a young MC.
Oh no, you can't blame it. No, you can't do that at all. I can tell you why you can't do that. I want to stop you there. It's the culture of rap once it turned into a music business. We're talking about the 90s. We're talking about 90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
Not where we're at now, because right now people actually do play live. More rappers do play live than they ever did before. And that changed in the early 2009, 2010. So before that, because rap shows, the system, I'll blame this. You always have to blame the system, right? Of course. But I'm saying because rap shows weren't able to be had early on because they thought they were unsafe, right? They were over here think that there's a bunch of niggas is going to be here. Oh, we don't want you at our venue. So they were keeping us out of the venues. But as those things changed, rappers were just getting hot and having these hot singles and then doing these club and not doing club shows and building their base. So we're talking about 2006 and 5, you know, if all those white t-shirt songs and ringtone songs, they couldn't fill up a venue, but they could have gone out to the venues. They just didn't want to because they could get a bag from the club.
So this is why we have a rapper on the show, to keep it real and tell you the truth about what's going on. But I do want to blame the MCs to a certain extent because I think if you adopt this or anything, but this especially as the thing you want to do with your life, at least with your 20s or whatever it is, you should want to master all the major parts of this. You shouldn't be looking at like, well, we'll just figure out the stage at some point. Like, you should look at that as a craft. Sure, you look at the studio as a craft and try to figure that out. You should look at the stage as the same thing, as a science that I have to sit and figure out because I owe it to the fans and to myself to perform on each of the platforms that hip hop gives you with maximum ability.
I agree with that, but let's hold that because one, people are asking, is this a premiere or a live? This is live stream. We live. This is UNC CENAT. We in here right now, chat. We gotta call them chat. See, that's what the young guys, they call the whole everybody in there chat. So chat, this is a live stream. Second, someone goes, it says typical old heads hating on the young generation. We did not hate on the young generation.
He's being sarcastic.
Toure.
He's being sarcastic. He gave you the /S.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I looked at it quick.
That means he's being sarcastic.
Your kids, yo, UNC CENAT for real. My kids told me he's being sarcastic.
No, look,
that's so funny. I didn't even see the slash though.
I want to hear more about the touring life and about being extraordinary at touring. Actually, you remind me of one thing that KRS-One told me once, that he likes to come on stage with a jacket and a loose-fitting jacket so that it is moving to create an impression of more space and more movement than you're actually doing, and it gives you something to do. So you take the jacket off after the first or second or third song, and then it looks like, okay, now I'm really getting into it, and I'm giving you guys something higher.
It's
and that
showmanship.
notion of that notion of props is really important. I think a lot of people may not have realized. We just saw Dave Chappelle do the opening on SNL, right? And he's smoking.
Yeah.
It's not because he loves cigarettes so much, and I think he does love cigarettes, but this gives him something to do, and it creates a sense of anticipation. Notice that he's playing with the cigarette like he's about to smoke it when he's building up to saying something. And then when he goes to say the punchline or the bar, he kind of drops it, creating this notion of like, this is so important that I have to put my cigarette aside to tell you this. So the cigarette is creating all these expectations in you about where he is in telling the story.
What it is.
And that he's not looking it is important. So all these sort of props are important. I wonder how you are thinking about like props and clothes and other things to give the people a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm going to relate to the Mr. Morale tour myself and obviously the Kendrick Super Bowl. We're going to get into the topics. First of all, since this is a live stream, we want to let y'all, how y'all like our overlay? Look at that. We got our topics. We're going to talk about the UNC CENAT stream tonight. We're going to talk about this ASAP. Well, Tori is going to talk about it because he's the journalist. And then we're going to talk about the Super Bowl and some other things. But to answer that question, you're saying props, and I'm just gonna go overall showmanship and entertainment, right? Because the props are just parts of how to communicate an idea. Like this kid on tour with, I shouldn't have called him a kid, but he's like 8 years younger than me, so I call him a kid. His name's Damn Skippy. He does the whole I'm a rhyme through the alphabet thing, right? The general viewer is not going to know that you're rhyming the alphabet if you just start rapping, right? But you know what he does? Okay. He calls two people from the crowd or his friends, whoever's there, has them hold a whiteboard, writes A, and he's like articulating the devil B better than better, goes through all the things, and he's writing the letters as he's flowing on the letters. And I told him, that's genius. That's a great way to let people know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And he's one of those like Tech Nine, Eminem, I'm a rap fast as hell type of rappers, and he does all that while doing that. That's part of the showmanship. And now Kendrick, that's the same thing. He's doing Mr. Morale, right? Talking about these different sides of him and him analyzing himself. And he has a puppet of himself. And the puppet is rapping one part, and he's rapping. Some people are like, he didn't need to do that. But for me, I'm like, this is genius. And then later on, you see the strings of the shadow strings of him rapping it and him being like puppeted by this idea of himself or by society's perspective of himself. You could extrapolate that visual into so many different things, and that's part of the showmanship. That shit is it is some papoose shit. Chat. They said we shouldn't call
James,
it chat. What's the Unk way? Let's go ahead.
Go ahead. No, James
what's the Unk way of saying chat?
Talking about performing is a literal separate skill from rapping. Of course it is. For sure. Completely. And somebody else noticed this, points out, which I was going to bring up, Doechie's great stage work down to a T. She's a theater kid. So she comes from performing on stage. And so you could see the difference between her and so many MCs who aren't ready for the stage. They're ready for like a big stage, but like a figurative stage, but they haven't learned, how do I stand on a stage and perform for the 10 or 100 people standing in front of me? And Doechii could do that incredibly because that's what she comes from. That's part of why we love her so much.
That's why we have a video of us watching Doechii, and it's not even monetized. We still put it up there. The reason why is because I'm what's the word? I'm flabbergasted by by her ability to perform. She is it. She has it. Everybody else need to shut up. She's next level performer, and she's just at this level because her breath control, her understanding of entertainment and showmanship, her ability to spit too. I love Doechii. I can't wait to see her live. I only seen videos, and she's great.
This whole thing, hip hop, 90s, normally, MC gets on stage with half of his block standing behind him, right?
Yeah.
30,
But that's
40
kind of fire,
guys
though.
just
That's kind of
standing
fire.
there, right? And he kind of paces the stage, kind of shouts his rhymes at us, yells at the sound man, drops the mic and leaves. And it's kind of raw and underperformed. And you kind of feel like pulverized, and none of the sort of loving way of pulling you into the music that you get from the album or the single. It was something else watching guys up there with like 30 guys standing behind them who have nothing to do. We're just standing here. Like,
Yo, I mean, I saw Wu-Tang in 2008. Some people have seen Wu-Tang. First of all, there's 7 million different types of Wu-Tang shows. There's the ones where you only getting 3 niggas and they call it a Wu-Tang show. There's the ones where everybody's there. There's one where it's like one of them and they still call it a Wu-Tang show. So I've seen, I think, yeah, we performed with Raekwon one time, and his voice was gone, but it's the chef. It was still great to just be around him, right? But I saw him in 2008. And Meth and Red opened, I think, before the whole Wu-Tang came up, and that was incredible. Because this was when Rock the Bells was just starting, I think, really popping off. And then Rage Against the Machine was after Wu-Tang. So it was Wu-Tang and Rage Against the Machine. And if you don't like Rage Against the Machine or don't know Rage Against the Machine, you tripping, because that shit is one of the most amazing shows ever. So Wu-Tang, which was jumping in the crowd, controlling the entire crowd, spitting everything, no background tracks. When they say certain things in unison, it sounds amazing. Saying no dirties parts, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then I didn't get to see him over here in DC one time, and I saw him, and a lot of people were like, nah, it wasn't it. But I think it's gonna be a hit or miss with a group that dynamic and so much shit going on. But like you can't deny the energy of a group of niggas on stage spitting. Like you can't deny that energy.
But two things: if everybody on the stage is there to perform, and they are all performers, and they're all spitting or whatever, like that's one thing. But like I saw Redman and many others who had 30 just niggas from the block just standing behind them with no direction, no point. I'm just like the wings of the stage have spilled out onto the stage, and it becomes visually a mess. And they're not doing anything; they're just standing there. This was typical hip hop in the '90s. But I want to broaden it a little bit before we wrap up this part of this segment.
Yeah,
you didn't say that Jay-Z is a good performer, right?
I'm gonna get into that, but I want to answer this question from the chat. When you put together a song, is there any vision of the performance experience? I think if you are a performer, you're thinking about it right away. You're thinking about it completely right away. And I think it's just a synergy. It's not I'm doing this for the sake of performance, but it's I know that this works in both ways. That's how I feel as an artist. When I thought about $1 million in the bank and the samples, I said the thing, I slowed it down, then sped it up and made it feel like it was a Chuck D sample. Was my goal with that chorus. And I know it would have that type of aggression and energy live where I don't have to say it. You know what I'm saying? It's like people could hear that and they're going to be able to rock with this and not just kill them with the verse. So it's just $1 million in the bank, and I'm just sitting there dancing and I spit the shit. So yeah. But back to Jay-Z. I think when I saw Jay-Z at his best, I forgot what tour it was, but it was after his Live Nation deal. For me, at his best, I saw him in arena. Yeah.
So this sounds like Black Album era.
I think it was right after that. But as far as being able to perform, because that's when I remember he had the live. He was just playing certain arenas during the Black Album era. He didn't do an arena tour. But anyways, it was about him being able. He gives me Frank Sinatra energy. It's not about my energy. It's not about dancers. I'm going to sit. He had a whole orchestra and band. Nigga had a suit on. I can come up here. I'm going to talk to you guys for an hour. And he was putting us through his. When I heard freaking you don't know how it is, and then the strings come in, it was the craziest sounding thing. And then his voice is clearly cutting through everything. That was a beautiful performance because he was talking us through the entire performance, and it felt like you're watching old big brass band artists. They're not jumping and dancing around. They're sitting there with the mic, holding the mic at the bottom of the mic, walking around the stage, being cool, and you understood the coolness level, and that was authentic to him. Whereas other people are jumping around doing all these other things. At that time, that was authentic to him, and it was dope. Oh, my man Jarvis in the chat. What's good? But yeah.
I mean,
so, yeah.
Look, is it authentic?
Yo, I want you to hate on Jay because you big him up too much. Go ahead, hate on him. I'm loving it.
It's not hating. It's not hating. I've been to many Jay-Z concerts. Generally, my thesis at the end of the night is Jay said, "I'm back for more cash," and like didn't put the thought and effort. He's way too cool for school. He's like, he performs like, this is no big deal. I'm just chilling. This is nothing. And like, this is nothing is great energy on a record when you're spitting that shit. But in concert, it leaves me underwhelmed. I'm like, where was the energy? I needed a little bit more vibe. He tends to not give you anything else going on. So like there's a screen, the screen shows the most obvious visualizations of the things he's saying. Rather than trying to create a world that I am evoking, I am just showing you pictures.
Like he's singing niggas in Paris and you just see a nigga in Paris. Like
you just see a picture of Paris. There'll be a street sign of the Champs-Elysees. And I'm like, really? And like Kanye and Beyonce, right? Kanye being formerly a close friend and collaborator, Beyonce, wife, they're giving you a show. And like things are happening and there's outfits and there's stage and there's lighting. And Jay-Z's like, no. Let me take it down. And the Sinatra thing is kind of interesting. That comparison is interesting because Jay's definitely like, yeah, you know, we're just here.
Yeah. We here. I'm gonna perform. I appreciate it. I don't think that that's where his strong suit is, but like I said, I saw it. I appreciated it. I seen other people say it. Someone in the chat just said that Jay-Z's a lazy performer. A lot of people in the chat are saying finally some criticism of Jay-Z from Toure. Finally, some home criticism.
The comment that you're zipping over is multiple people saying I agree with Toure. Green is wrong. So let's keep it focused.
What did we zip over that? What did we zip over that? No, nobody did that. But
no, it's the only real chink in Hove's armor as far as performer. Now, Nas ain't that much better, right? Like we talk about 3K in that top 5, like, you know, as far as just MCing, like, you know, I mean, so it doesn't hurt him that much when we talk about like a top 5 conversation, right? Because a lot of the other people who are in the conversation aren't that much better than him, and Nas is not that much better than him at it, and Nas ain't better than him at it. But I just wish you know what I heard too, like this hurt my heart. Because when they were doing the Watch the Throne tour, Jay and Kanye, and they would do fucking niggas in Paris like 10 times in a row at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And people who knew told me like Kanye wanted to do all this stuff. And Jay would be like, let's calm that down, cousin. Let's calm that way down. Because that costs money, that costs money, that costs money. Like, how can we? And so Kanye is approaching this like an artist. Like, how can I give you a show that blows you away? And Jay's like, no, like budget, money. Let's make as much money as we can each night. And I would like to see a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more approach to giving you the art.
This man said lazy is crazy. But chat talking about Kendrick is chill, but turns up live. Jay doesn't move like that. Is it NY swag? I think it's part of that. I think it's just part of his actual authenticity and where he is comfortable. Because Dame Dash and Biggs and them early on said that Jay used to not remember his lyrics or not know what to do live, and he had to. And then that's why he had all these people on the stage to kind of help build your confidence. And honestly, that's why a lot of these rappers, for 2 reasons. One, protection, right? Like you want your crew with you for some protection, but on stage, that's for your confidence. If you're around these niggas all the time, and that's where you have your confidence is in your crew and your gang, right? So you out there on stage, and that's why they get it. Me personally, I had. Go ahead.
The protection thing I felt at the tunnel. Did you ever go to the tunnel?
I'm too young for the tunnel. I was like 5 when the tunnel was popping.
Okay, the tunnel was 90s hip hop. There might be 1,000 people in this giant warehouse dancing to hip hop on any given Sunday night. I mean, it was a cattle call. It was massive. If you lost your friend in there, forget it. You're never finding each other again. You may never find each other again in life. So forget it. You're not friends anymore. That relationship is over. But it would be this massive amount of people, and MCs would come in there and perform. And the stage would be filled with people because the energy of the tunnel was like, if you don't rock the crowd, we're going to come out of the crowd and beat you up. And I'm not saying that ever happened, but that was the vibe, right? That Latin Quarter had that vibe too. And so to see you performing on stage with a sea of people just standing there who were like your team, your vibe, here to protect you, whatever. Like I get it there, and it fit there in that tunnel aesthetic. But at other places, I was like, this is not working. This is just a whack show, right? There was no thought about what the entertainment value was actually going to be.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying Kendrick is the best they've seen. Obviously, Busta Rhymes was incredible. I saw him open for 50. People were saying 50 Cent was boring live. I enjoyed that show. As far as the show and the aesthetic of that show, for 50 and what I thought it would be, 50's show was good. Like, it was like
this is an important point from Rachel. Stage presence doesn't come naturally. Like, you have to build it, you have to learn it, you have to get comfortable, right, Green? You have to get comfortable on stage because you're comfortable on stage now. You're not nervous, but it takes time to get to that.
You can be born with that. I think because I think a lot of bands, artists pray before they go on stage. And we're going to get into all the topics. Before we go in again, I want to tell everybody, just let them know, this is live right here. This is UNC CENAT. We got our docket right here. We're going to get into a lot of the stuff, but this tour conversation is fun. So we think that, I think that you could be born in. I felt like I was born to perform because I feel comfortable on stage. Yeah, I feel like I feel right now on stage. There's one time I've gotten nervous before performance, and that was on Jimmy Kimmel with my band. We played Jimmy Kimmel. There was a bunch of cameras. I realized there's 10 million people on the other side of that camera. And I was like in a deer in headlights for like 2 seconds. And then I was like, oh, and then I was good. That's the one time I really felt it. And then the one time, and like that's why a lot of people, I think, have to do drugs or pray. They feel like they need to pray to get before they go on stage, which is great. That's your faith, because they need to tap into that confidence and God to get into there, or have that lubrication to like lose any inhibitions, right? The one time we all actually did like a prayer circle before we went on. I think we were opening up for Lauryn Hill. So we're like, oh, Lauryn Hill's gonna come on, and Janelle Monáe was after us. We did a prayer. Our whole system shut down. our whole shit shut. It was the worst opening and worst show ever, because we felt like, oh, this is a next level show. There's freaking 12,000 people here, so we had to play. We had to. It still had a good show, but we had to play different songs because the shit like shut up. So what I'm trying to say about that is, from that point, me and my band, we just kept doing it like we're just some guys that you saw us in the crowd, and we walked on stage and just did our thing, then walked back off stage, because it's not a big deal, because we all live this live music shit. So it's like, why are we treating it like it's something different than what we usually do? That's how I feel about it. It's like, if you pray every day, I pray every day. I already prayed this morning. I'm gonna go on stage and get in.
I'm good right now. I'm good, right? I'm ready.
Screwface in the chat. What's up?
Word. What's up? What's up, Screwface, my
Childish
man?
Gambino is good live. I seen him
For sure.
live early on too. But let's get into the shits right now. We're talking about live. Let's talk about the king of live. Kai Cenat went online talking about he's gonna have somebody on. I think it's tonight. He's gonna have somebody on, and he said the only clue he's gonna give is, I think it was turn the TV off or turn the TV on, whatever he said. But
One of
that's
those two. But you know what he's talking about when he says that.
he's talking about Kenny with that, right? So if Kai's gonna have Kenny on a live stream, that's crazy.
This is where we are in modern media. Because what,
Right.
10 years ago, Kenny, a week ahead of the Super Bowl, biggest artist in the country in some metrics, would have said, "Okay, let's do a big sit down with, I don't know, Oprah, Ahmad Rashad, I don't know, somebody big and cool." He goes on David Letterman or Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. But the move now is to hang out with Kai Cenat for 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is. And I'll watch that. A couple billion people will watch that. And I am dying to hear what this nigga says. Now, to Elliot Wilson's point, Kai will not ask Kendrick any of the journalistic type questions that I want answered regarding everything that's been going on with you the last year, which you haven't really ever talked about in a broader context with any sort of interviewer. So I have a lot of questions, and Kai is not going to ask any of them.
He's not.
And this will be like, look, I talked to media. I'm back to my bat cave, and there's so many things that I really want to know. You know what? I would love to know.
It's gonna be fun, at least.
What people want Kai to ask Kendrick. I would like him to ask him straight up and down, do you really think that nigga's a pedophile? Just straight. Was it something that you were saying? Or also, do you have evidence on him having a daughter? That last verse on Meet the Grams, was that real? Or you just fucking with him? I want to know, did you make all 5 of those records in the same session, on the same day? You said you had 5 more. Do you have 5 more? These are really interesting questions, I think, within the scope of what did this amazing recording artist do in this situation? And the historical record, we should know some of his thoughts and how he came up with this shit. And Kai is going to have a great time. I'm going to watch. 1 million people are going to watch. We're not going to get these questions answered.
Some people are saying, James in the chat says that it could be SZA because she's been on before. But I mean, if you got the SZA connect, that's a connect maybe to Kendrick. I think it's a smart move if Kendrick does that, to go to Kai. Kai is the culture right now, right? When Kai had freaking Kevin on there, that was hilarious.
Kevin Hart.
I was sitting there watching on my TV, and it was just live, and I'm sitting there watching. We're sitting there watching it. It was hella enjoyable.
James said, "Rap Latte, we got half an hour before Drake got dragged." I didn't even notice it. We were just having a nice show, and then Drake.
A regular show, you had to big up Drake. Tory's gonna big up Drake. He's like, it took. They be counting it. You should see the comments. They literally they put up 15 minutes. Took 15 minutes before he started talking about Drake. They be counting. They be waiting for you.
Wow,
that's hilarious.
He's actually not that bad on stage. I've been to a couple Drake shows. He's not that bad on stage.
Look at him giving him some credit. Look at him giving him some credit. Hold on. Some credit. Yeah. I seen him earlier on, and I would say the opposite.
For it, like a 660, 600.
But you see, here's the difference. Just like you see Jay-Z a lot and all that type of stuff. When you see someone earlier on versus later, those are two different people that you're seeing live. I saw him early on, and I didn't enjoy it. You probably saw him later on and enjoyed it because he got into his bag when it comes to performance. No one's going to be a good performer the first time. It's just not going to happen.
Look, I think this is a really interesting moment.
Screw said it was turn the TV off. It was confirmed. It was
I
confirmed
mean,
that it was turn the TV off.
It's a really interesting moment for Kai. I mean, he's really smart. He's really good at cutting through the noise and getting events to happen that bring attention to him, from Kevin Hart to now this, and the whole, Mafia Month and all that shit. He's incredible. You know, I mean, he's a legend at what he does as far as a broadcaster. He's unbelievable.
Yeah. An entertainer, and like I have to give him complete love because he's Trinidadian and Haitian, so his Caribbean roots right there. I got to show out for my peoples. So it's like I'm all about it, and I think it's the perfect platform, the most ridiculous and perfect platform for Kendrick to like. If Kendrick pops out on Kai, that's like that's crazy when you think about it.
No, I know it's not perfect.
I don't know if it's gonna happen.
None of these questions that we need answered will be answered.
You my guy, so of course I would love Kendrick out of nowhere to hit you up and be like, "Yo, let's do a one-on-one. Come to Rap Latte." But if I'm being real with you as a fan, I don't want to hear him talk to your ass. I don't want.
It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be me.
I'm saying no. When I say use, I'm using you as the beacon of someone that's going to ask him the hard questions. I don't need that right now. I need that after the Grammys. I need that after everything. I want him to have a real interview with a real interviewer, because now you guys can look and extrapolate through the whole thing. In the thick of it, after Screwface just said that in the chat, in the thick of this shit, I want Kai has been put inside that lawsuit, right? They put his whole picture of mug in there. I want Kendrick to be over there. We're still in it. I need you, Toure, to interview Kendrick after the fact. After he's got his Grammys. I mean,
maybe, but this is what Elliott Wilson was talking about, that Kendrick will go on with Kai. He will get the media hit, the attention economy hit that he wants and deserves, and then he'll go back to the Batcave and it'll be like, I did an interview. And it's like, you didn't do an interview, but as it counts today, I did an interview. But like, you won't do an interview because he's not going to ask you. And I don't even mean me asking him questions to make him uncomfortable, right? Like, did you record all these songs in one day? That's not a tough question. It's a real question, but I do want to know the genesis of these songs and what you were thinking about. And did you do it in a day? Did you do it in a week? Like,
Chat said, what if it's Mustard and not Kendrick? Maybe. That could be a thing too. That seems kind of highly likely when I think about it. I honestly don't think Kendrick's gonna come on there because Kendrick don't be going nowhere, right? But it'd be dope if it was. And another thing that someone said in the chat, Kendrick should not be answering those questions during an active lawsuit, even though it's not against him. Even though it's not against him, you don't want to.
The lawsuit's not against him, so what?
It's not against him. But
the question of whether or not he really thinks he's a pedo, that. Perhaps somebody might say better to not
ever answering. Yeah, he's never.
But the other questions that I have about, I want to talk about the colonizer bit. I want to talk about the N-word bit. Just get Kendrick talking about, what do you feel when you hear that nigga say the N-word, and just let him go on that. That would be an amazing question and an amazing answer, probably.
I'm gonna be real with you. I think it's the smartest thing any artist has done, and especially for him, to not be doing those things. He's given us the opening. No, he's given us the opening to have constant communication and pontification on these ideas. If he gives us the answers, now what are we? Where does the audience and where did the Rap Lattes and the Screw Faces and everybody? We're doing this for him and keeping it alive longer than. I don't think it makes any sense for him to do traditional interviews or media in any way. Even though he did that bizarre, fashion thing he did? That's not traditional. This nigga's now a fashion nigga because he wasn't a fashion nigga before, but now he's a fashion nigga. And he's like, let me expand myself in this fashion way. And he got interviewed by SZA. It all makes sense. That's why I honestly don't even think he's going to be on this Kai Cenat stream.
It hurts my heart to hear you. I understand as a recording artist, and in certain ways, in certain parts of this whole ecosystem, we are at odds, right? As artists and journalists, because there would be moments, if I was covering you, there would be a moment when I would ask you something that you don't really want to answer. If I sit with you for an hour for like Rolling Stone or whatever, and I don't ever ask you anything you don't want to answer, then I just asked you a bunch of softballs. But I do think that, putting aside the question of tough questions or not, I do think that most artists, especially most recording artists and their fans especially, would benefit from you make an album and then you come and you talk about the album and where you are in your life at that moment, so the fans can have a deeper appreciation of who you are at this moment. I remember when Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 came out, Guns N' Roses, and the reporter talked to Axl Rose
Old as
about
fuck.
for sure. And the reporter talked to Axl Rose about being in therapy. And Axl Rose is talking about the impact of therapy on him and how that shapes what he's writing about. So we have a much deeper understanding of where he is at this moment in his life. And I think that exchange between any great journalist and the fans and any great meaningful artist is an important part of the whole album process.
I agree with you. And somebody in chat just said, to an extent, somebody in chat just said, Green gets it. An artist destroys the tension by answering questions that demystify their work. I think
I understand
there's a
that.
balance. I think there's a balance that people have kind of lost, because when people were saying, Michael Jackson and the mystification of artists back in the day to create that reputation or brand, as people like to say, when you create that reputation, the mystification that happened comes because publications and everything else, media, was doing all the talking for you, right? You are in people's faces every day because you're on the commercial, you're on the radio every day, and people listen to the radio. So no matter what, if you're answering the questions or not, somebody or something is talking about you every day. It's how do you get the machine? So you're either talking about it yourself every day, like a Cardi B. She's like in your face and she's engaging with her audience and got people there, or you're Playboy Cardi and your army of fans are talking to everybody a day. No, but let me get to the editorial. Let me get to the editorial piece. My thought about this. The editorial part of the situation, I think, is so important. It doesn't demystify reading the great article that Toure wrote about miseducation of Lauryn Hill, because you are now understanding and knowing things that you didn't get about the album to apply context to it. Getting context to something is important, and getting that from the artist. Demystifying is completely different than getting context, and great journalists apply context, whereas some of the journalists are just trying to hit the hard questions that are just have nothing to do with the music or context. There's a big difference there.
Well, sometimes we get into visual art on this show, right? Because your background, and I'm deeply interested in it. And I've actually discussed this with some artists. I had an interesting conversation with Kande Wiley about this. And if you go back to Andy Warhol, who was a superstar during his time, he would not describe his work. And if journalists tried to ask him to talk about his work, he had these tricks that he would go into, these things that he would say that would, because he didn't want to demystify at all. The artist is to say nothing about the work itself, and you are alone to figure out what the artist was saying and what they meant. Okay, that fit for that period of time. But part of what Kehinde was saying to me is now we're in a time when artists kind of have to be able to discuss their work and help the people understand what they're talking about, so that we can have a more effective relationship between the artist and the consumers, either the fans or the collectors, right? And I think for rappers and singers as well, helping us understand your project better, having Beyonce, let's say, sit down with Oprah and talk about her country and Southern roots, so we understand, Cowboy Carter is really wrapped up in when she was 7, they went to the Grand Ole Opry and she felt so at home and she was listening to Waylon Jennings or whoever, Willie Nelson, all these years, and we didn't know, and it's related to all this sort of stuff. And just tell us this. And I don't think that demystifies it in a way where there's no more mystery. We don't have to look at this. We don't have to listen to this anymore, but we can be brought more deeply into conversation with that piece of art because we have the real context from the artist's life.
I agree with that part. I think, because I think that's a lost thing in a lot of things, but we get it in different places. But I think it's just all about bounces. You need that context, and people say like there's Kendrick interviews out there already, right? When you start out, you're doing the interviews, you're talking to people, you're getting people understand your thought perspective and your perspective in creating these albums. He has that in this space, and the way he's working in this, we're still in the hot zone. You know what I'm saying? The chat understands that we're in the hot zone. We don't need an interview at this exact second. We need it after it's done, though. We need to talk about this whole time period.
Somebody said,
"Oh, we should get Nardwuar on here."
Somebody said, "Oh, I would love to talk to Nardwuar."
Chat, we got to chat to Nardwuar.
There's one, right? I bet Nardwuar would not come on as himself. He would always be in that character. Right? He never breaks that character. If you just went to dinner with him, he would not act like that, right? He's putting on a persona, which is amazing. And kind of it's amazing that he's still doing it. He's still in it and he stays in it the whole but he's not really like that. I would, you'd love to see that would be demystifying, right? And that would break through of like, oh, that's not the real person. Wait, somebody said something. Wait, Trey Way, Kendrick is Batman. You won't find this Batcave. Drake is Spider-Man. He takes his mask off every movie.
Every movie. He's always out there. Wait, I love Spider-Man more than Batman, though. Batman.
Wait. If it's Kendrick, you like Spider-Man more than Batman. Like,
I'll tell you why.
Okay. Maybe. Why?
Well, because I like what he said, because Spider-Man is like the everyday man. Batman is wealthy. A spoiled rich kid. That's using his view of the world.
He's privileged but traumatized. He's not spoiled.
I'm talking shit about him. No, I'm talking shit about him. I wouldn't say he is traumatized. Obviously, he saw his two parents dead, and then now he's murdered. So I understand that, but the way that he's doing it, and like, if you think about it, you ever seen the SNL or some skit about how Batman's just like fucking up black people in the hood because it's like talking about street crimes and shit like that? Spider-Man is a better character to me than Batman, and Marvel took a better stance by you plant these people in real places. Spider-Man is the neighborhood Spider-Man from freaking Queens, and he just goes around Manhattan stopping crime. It's something you can attach yourself to, especially like as a kid. You're like, I know New York. I've seen this in Spider-Man.
Sure.
I walk through the streets now as a fucking adult and look at the buildings. I'm like, yeah, Spider-Man just be like, it's a whole visual thing that you could put yourself into it. And I think that's the difference between a Kendrick and other artists, where it's like other artists, you feel like you could be them, be around them, you get them when they're all like in your face. But some other people, that's not Spider-Man's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, right? Then there's the people that like how Iron Man, everyone knows Iron Man, but if you know anything about the comic books, people didn't like Iron Man. Iron Man was basically fucking Elon Musk. Like, in the sense of like, people were like, yo, there's like this rich nigga making weapons and shit, come around blowing shit up. People didn't like, the entire community wasn't like, this is my guy.
Batman had the toys. Spider-Man was doing parkour before we knew what parkour was.
He was doing parkour
with the toys. He like James Bond with it. Like, oh, we have this extra special shooter that has a rope that will tie the person up. And what? See, here's how you know, right?
Chat said Iron Man is definitely secretly racist.
Batman had women wanting to be down. There's generations of cat women, right? Halle Berry, fucking, I don't know who was in the 60s. But like, who rocks with Spider-Man? Ain't no Spider-Woman.
Yes, there is Spider-Man. You see, you don't know shit about Spider-Man. That's the problem. It's Gwen Stacy.
Until the fucking animated movie started.
Nah, Spider-Man was in the comics in the 80s, bro. You talk like, you see this shit? You see this Liquid Sword shirt? This means I'm a rap geek. If you're a rap nerd, especially a Wu-Tang nerd, you are also a fucking comic book nerd. The best thing I found out about Method Man when we did the song and music video together, this nigga said he still gets comics, and he has his comic guy that he goes to. He just ships it up and picks up the comics. Like,
I stopped listening after when we did the song and the video together. me and Method Man made a song together. Yeah, that was cool. We were talking about comic books. That was cool. Wait,
I'm gonna say for someone to be where he's
Kendrick
at.
Kai conversation. was supposed to be and will be who else is coming out. Because if Kendrick does show up, Kai would probably try to get at him about who else is going to be out there with you. We know SZA's going to be out there with him.
These
Who
Super Bowl
else is
predictions.
I got 2 predictions of 2 people I think is going to come out there. Who do you think is going to be out there on the stage with Kendrick?
Obviously, we all know SZA's going to be out there, right? So that's guaranteed. So we know that. But I like what Dissect said in his stories, where he took the still shot of the Kendrick performance trailer, and you saw people marching, which is that a reference to Tyler, the Creator? Plus, the Hey Now song is in the background of that thing, and Tyler has obviously the most notable remix of Hey Now, which is like one of my favorite things Tyler's ever done in the last, like,
for sure,
10 years. And I love Tyler. So it's like, I actually would be disappointed if Tyler's not at the Super Bowl. Like, I will, and that's crazy.
I would expect to see Tyler just as probably the number 2 LA artist right now, right? Who just dropped an album, right? So there's a lot of heat. There's surely a friendship. There's surely a vibe. I don't know if Kendrick cares that you just did a takeoff on Hey Now on Christmas, but like he's definitely
he might not care.
Somebody like Schoolboy Q or Tyler. I wonder if we'll see Dr. Dre jump on the stage with Kendrick. Not a stranger
about
Super
Wayne?
Bowl stage.
Because supposedly they talked.
I would love to see Wayne. I think it would make a lot of sense. It's Wayne's hometown. I hope that nobody got caught up in whatever words were said after Wayne didn't get it himself. But it would make a lot of sense to throw maybe New Orleans' best rapper on the stage for sure.
Yeah, I think that people saying in the chat, why would you be disappointed? I just love when 2 artists that I respect and make great art get connected and do good shit. That's all. It's like disappointing just to see that. I'm not trying to take away from anybody. Obviously, Black Hippie. I almost expect that. Some certain things I expect, but I would have no problem with Kendrick doing the whole thing by himself, like with nobody anywhere.
He could. He's that sort of performer.
Just solidify it. Yeah.
I think he's teased SZA, so now we're gonna get a show. And I want, interesting, the backstage of Beyonce's Christmas Day performance and the way that she's interacting with the camera, and the backstage showed us how she comes off the camera, resets, and then meets the camera again. It just reminded me of how hard it is to do, 10 minutes all by yourself? That's a lot, right? That's a lot on a performer. Pay attention to me and me alone. So it may be a lot to say, just have Kendrick up there alone. There may be a desire. It's a Super Bowl. Let's put like other people. I mean, like I would imagine he'd be like, here's the Compton high school marching band, right? Like he's going to big up Compton every way possible.
Definitely. I loved like what he did at the Grammys, where he had like Africa and then Compton in the middle of Africa, and just that shit was amazing. But just to speak on the 10-minute thing, just like a comedian, even though it's way harder for a comedian, I have to do 30 minutes. Actually, I'm supposed to do 40. You know how fucking hard it is to do 30 minutes? Everything on your album ain't hot, bruh. Everything on your album is not gonna get the people going live. So there's always gonna be dips, and you gotta figure out how to interact and make it still a show and get people engaged. I don't care who you are. Everything on your album isn't hot. 30 minutes is crazy if you have like one hot song. And these artists be doing shows and they got one hot song and try to do 30 minutes.
So wait, what do you do you got one hot record and you got to save that to the end, right? You don't do that first. You do it at the end, right? So what do you do to keep from having dips?
If you're smart, which is the same thing that you see when like the Roots are amazing. And you remember Roots and Jay-Z Unplugged. That was great. You like the Roots and Jay-Z Unplugged live thing, right?
For sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I just want to give Jay-Z some credit.
The whole Unplugged thing was about music. It wasn't about performance. You know what I mean? It wasn't about like
it was.
It was about the sound.
The sound, yeah. But anyways, the thing that was great about the Unplugged thing, to answer the question and say that, is that you give the people some shit that they know.
Yeah.
In for singers and bands, they do covers. So you do a cover of a song, even like Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, Stadium. They're still doing covers of like the Bee Gees, right? They're doing covers to grab people in and keep the show going, even if they are hits for days. If you're a rapper, you rap on other people's beats, you rework another track, like what Doechii did when she was at Flognaw or I think it was, where she started rapping her song Spoochie Coochie and it switched to Uchi Wally, which can relate to Spoochie Coochie, and we were talking about it, and you heard the Uchi Wally beat and she spit in the other verse. You're like, this is fire. That's something that happened, I feel like was made famous almost by Jay. Kenny needs no help. Kenny needs no help. We know that, but we're just saying what we like.
He doesn't need help. He doesn't need help, but I think to do a bigger show, you would want to have other people there. And I think if you look at the Jay-Z era of Super Bowl halftime shows of Dr. Dre in LA and Rihanna, and what am I missing? There was one other. Who else was there that I'm missing?
Usher.
Who did it last year?
Usher,
and The Weeknd also.
The Weeknd was 2020.
There's a lot of
Usher had Alicia Keys on there. You got to bring other people. That's what makes it a thing.
Yeah, and not just stars, but like dancers, right? Rihanna's there with like 100 other dancers, right? Like, I think we're probably gonna see. There was another show, a smaller show, not by folks that we know, that suggested that maybe Kendrick, I'm laughing at even the idea, maybe Kendrick will bring out Drake.
No, why'd you even bring him up? You brought it like, I'm actually gonna, hey chat, if we want to call it audible, let's give this nigga a red card. Type in red if we want him to never talk about Drake for the rest of this episode. Type in the word red, chat. Because when you bring up that,
they
like,
want
what
to
are we talking about?
talk about Drake for a whole episode. They want the Drake. But no, I mean, like, for somebody in some brains, the idea that Kenny should bring out Drake is a real idea. And I'm like, no.
Dumb.
I think the nigga really hates that nigga and thinks he's the ruination of hip hop. He don't want him on the stage. He wants him out of fucking hip hop.
Chat saying red, and some of them are like blue. Nah.
There's plenty
that
of blue.
Drake shit.
There's lots of blue.
There's not plenty. He said, keep going. There's like, we want to hear this.
Green. I'm getting blue, green, purple. All that green, blue, purple is for me.
Give this man a red card for that.
Yeah, totally good.
No one wants Drake to be. Nobody wants to sully this moment with any of that talk, because it's for you guys. This is for you. This is y'all Super Bowl. The Drake haters Super Bowl. This is for y'all. So why would you want him? Like, no one wants him there. This is for y'all to get to, like.
Obviously, you saw UMG's response to Drake over the weekend. Nothing in that talked about whether or not the nigga can do Not Like Us. I have no doubt that Kendrick is doing Not Like Us, right?
Supposedly, the NFL commented on the premiere post that's promoting the halftime show, said, like, ready for NLU, and it was from the NFL official account. That's what I saw. Someone screenshotted it. So people are like, that NFL don't give a damn. Like, so, I mean, how you?
Well, there you go.
We can't lie and say that song isn't the reason why the battle, and that song is the reason why he's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look, if you're Kendrick and you don't do Not Like Us, we will all notice. We will all think less of you. We will all assume that you were cowardly, or backed down by Drake, or told what to do by UMG, the NFL, Fox, one of them, all of them. That would be a terrible look for you.
Yeah, but I don't think so. I don't think there's an L that this guy could take until January 2026. I don't think there's an L like you could take. The guy's got a stadium tour that is like sold out. Like, what? I don't think you could take an L until like people be like, "Oh, where's Kendrick? Where's he been?" You know what I'm trying to say? Like, the guy ain't taking an L for a good
So let's
while.
do this. It's a good time to be Kendrick. On the other side of LA, it's a rough time to be Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Let's talk about it.
Snoop is in his car on Instagram talking about, I'm still a black man. You can't hate on me because I'm filled with love. It's Sunday morning. I'm smoking weed and listening to gospel, and I'm in a good mood. Y'all can't hate on me. And it was never about hating Snoop. It's about disappointment, and our disappointment that you decided to stand by Trump and support him, even despite who this man is, even despite what you said you noticed about him in 2016, but now you're on the Trump team. It's and like he said, I'm still a black man. Of course, you're still a black man.
Nobody
That's
said you
why
wasn't black,
the black community is demanding accountability from you, black man. Like we're not gonna, we can take your black card away from you, but we mad at you. And like I'm like looking at you sideways, like what the fuck were you thinking?
Yeah, the reality is there's business ethics, there's street ethics, and then there's cultural ethics, right? And it's like, which one takes precedent over the other in your actions? Obvious, and we can realize what when it happens. We love Snoop. There's no reason. Snoop even knows this. There ain't no reason for him to go online and say that he black. It's like that's nothing. It's like if you're black, what we have an issue with is that you said you wouldn't. You think people are clowns for doing this, and you wouldn't do this, and then it happened. So talk to us. You know what I'm saying? Talk. What happened there? Why did you do that? What? That's all. Or if it's none of our business, then maybe it shouldn't have been said in the first place that that's not something you should do. Something that Nelly did is. We never heard. I don't know Nelly's political perspective. I never heard that. I just know it's hot in here. Yeah, that's the fuck I know. So what am I?
I mean, look, we're in an emergency. Good.
No, I'm saying so. Snoop, on the other hand, and he feels something, and obviously feels like he should say something, and that's why he has a response, and then wants to talk about black people tearing him down, which to me is deflection because we're not talking about black people tearing black people down. We're talking about why did you do that? And tell us why. That's all it is.
I mean, like, let's be clear. Nelly gave us an explanation. He said he respects the office and he was honored to perform from the office. I don't accept that. I think that's bull. I think he genuinely means that, but I don't think that you can separate the office from the man occupying it. And you can't act like this is a normal moment. I'm going to go party with the president. A president's a president. They're all the same. Like, no, we're in an emergency situation. This is very dangerous for America and for black people in specific. And for you to act like
respecting the office is crazy. That's a crazy ass statement if you think about it, because the office has been here since slaves has been here. So what are you talking about, bruh? I respect the office. Like
it's kind of an apolitical political stance. Like I respect the presidency, but I don't care who's in the presidency. But that doesn't make any sense to me. Snoop is not at all dealing with the issue, right? His entire response is a diversion from the issue. Let's just all be lovey. I'm still a black man. What else did he say? Fucking like, you know, it's all love. Like stop tearing each other. We're not here to tear you down wrongfully. We are calling you in or calling you out because you deserve accountability because you stood next to the nigga like everything is all good. And we are not in normal times. This is not a moment when you can just hang out with Trump and it's like, it's all good. It's not all good. It's not okay.
Chat says Snoop isn't hurting for money, so it's weird he's doing performances for crypto and Trump. Is there any other reason why Snoop, this is me adding on to that, is there any other reason why Snoop would do this?
Look, I think the story is this, that in 2021, Trump pardoned Michael Harris, aka Harry O, co-founder of Death Row. I can understand intellectually how this would have a massive impact on anyone, Snoop, whoever. He pardoned my friend probably because Snoop at some point got on the phone and was like, could you please do this, right? Or had Snoop had some friend of Trump's to get to Trump, maybe Martha, maybe somebody, can you please consider this? And you know how Trump is. I can imagine that Trump pardoning your friend and getting him out of prison, and I don't know how much longer Harry O had to do, could have been 5, 10, 15 years. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of life you gave back to this man. Would that make me feel deeply grateful? And would it challenge me to think, well, maybe he is a good person because he's done this amazing thing for someone I care about, probably partly because of me?
Good person.
Yes, that would have an impact on you.
It'll definitely have an impact on you. Like you said, if it was me and my friend was gonna go to jail and someone let him get out of jail, it's like, thanks. But and this is my whole thing about, there's business ethics, there's street ethics, which that would fall on under, and then there's cultural. So if something's outweighing the other, that's on you, how you work and how you move through these things. And we could say the same thing where it's like, when you did that analogy about Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has that show on Amazon, and he's like, take this $1 million, Beast Games, take this $1 million and you could get out of here with $1 million. But then 500 people got to leave these games if you take that money, right? That's you being like, okay, what would you do in this situation? And what's your ethical perspective, and where's the balance, or whatever that, which is funny as shit and exploitative, but it's fun.
No, but it definitely gets to how some people are a little more focused on how do my actions affect the community versus how do my actions affect me. And I think being an artist is to navigate those two things, right? And you're constantly thinking, you got to be a bit of a politician. I'm representing the people. What are the things that I need to do to make sure that people feel like I'm representing them, right? The same way a politician from New Jersey might be going around with a pin that represents something that would speak to New Jerseyans and would be like, wow, yes, that, and like, you know, a rapper from the Bay is going to wear something that the community is like, he's with us, even though he's in London, he's still one of us, he's still thinking about us. You know,
Screwface just said,
you got to navigate that shit of like, what is for me and what do I do for the community? And I think he took one for himself, but also makes you think, what does he think is his community? Is he thinking this mass market target suburban mom who found me on the Olympics with Martha Stewart? Is that my audience? Is that my community now because I'm that level of superstar? Well, if that's your shit, then you can rock out with Trump with no guilt because that's my audience. I'm going there for more
I don't think he thinks that's his community. I don't think that's his community. And I think this what happens
hanging out with Martha Stewart.
It doesn't matter who you hanging out with.
Dr. Dre nowadays.
I hear you. Well, he just did a whole album. But anyways, two things I want to say. Screwface said this, and I want you to speak to. He said in the chat, he's like, to think we used to have black people willing to go to jail for what they stood for. Now you can just pardon your way into hip hop, right? So one thing I want you to speak to this. Yes, that's definitely been the history. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't people on the other side in our culture at those times during civil rights, right? I want you to speak to that.
There were like black people during civil rights doing, for sure, of course. I mean, like, look, you know the name Sammy Davis Jr. He's one of the most famous names from that generation, right?
Yeah.
He was more or less what we think of Kanye now, as far as Kanye sidling up to Trump in that way. Sammy Davis Jr. was that way with Richard Nixon, who was considered anti-black and deeply problematic by black people, the same way that we look at Trump that way. And there's this famous horrible photo because Sammy was complicated, right? Because they called him a Tom, and he hated it, but he also understood that a lot of black people felt that, and they felt they had justification for that. And he's like, hey, I donated to King. You know, I was at the March on Washington. Yeah, but you also are hanging out with Richard Nixon and supporting him. So you are doing some coon shit over here. And there's this famous photograph where Nixon is coming off the stage, I believe, and Sammy Davis is like greeting him. And Nixon was very cold as a human being, and Sammy was a child performer, so he was very exuberant. So Sammy hugs Nixon, and Nixon is not really returning the hug. He's kind of like stiff, and Sammy's eyes are closed, and he's smiling. So it's very, who did Sam Jackson play in? Steven, from Django. It's so Django,
Oh,
Stephen.
for
Oh my
real?
god.
The Uncle Ruckus
Oh
came.
my god.
Yo,
It's
I
so
love
bad.
Django. Django, and I love that performance. It's like one of the most beautiful performances
Love,
ever. Someone said
love.
Stevie Wonder had a Nixon diss track. I didn't, I didn't know that.
You haven't done nothing is a Nixon diss track from Stevie Wonder.
That's
You haven't
fire.
done
Oh,
nothing.
I didn't
Um,
even.
so
That's crazy.
yeah,
So
the Tomming that
that's
is
gonna
inherent.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It
It's
is
the
because you
dynamic
know
of being a
what I
black
think.
American, though, is to fight that, though. You are in constant
Yes.
battle of your Americanness and your
Yeah.
blackness. And those things are at odds. To be American is to be oppressive against yourself as being black, if you just really think about it and pare that down. So you're at constant odds as a black American.
100%.
every
There's
way.
always that voice of white supremacy saying like, if you give in a little bit, look what you could have. You can have more money. You can have
Get
more
money.
fame.
Come on,
And
man.
you don't even have to sell out all the way.
Don't
Just
sell it
make
all the way. Just right here.
pop records for minivan driving moms in the suburbs, right? So you're not
unless-
like speaking to the niggas in the hood anymore. You're speaking to the suburban moms, or write something.
Unless you
like
want to make that
American
music.
Fiction.
But yeah, I feel
Or write something that is a little more to just be more amenable to white folks, and things can be better for you. This is the constant struggle that being a black artist is. The movie American Fiction deals with this in a beautiful way, and that's what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And I think
I
we're
really
always
like that movie.
like, if I make a step too much in that direction, I'm giving too much to them. But the potential rewards for giving into them are so great. But of course, you're risking your soul on the other side.
Yeah. I think it's not even. I don't even think it has to be that. Those are like the things that we see in media all the time about being an artist and like what your art should do and how it is. Like someone could said Jean-Michel was since he's giving into that art world, he was not being fully black, or he's not doing, what I'm saying, by giving into all these spaces. But you could just think about it as every day, like people who feel weird about code switching, or people who feel weird about like how working for a certain company and where you work, every part of your life, just as a regular black human being, is a question of, is this, what exactly am I doing here culturally versus individually? But
so Brother Darkness makes an interesting point about
what?
We don't care about Snoop's political affiliation. I mean, I do care about Snoop's political affiliation. And I didn't care before he did that performance, but he made it an issue by performing at the inauguration. And he should have said, no, I'm good. This is my community. I'm rolling with them. I'm not going to perform for Trump. But you said keep the same energy for Sexy Red, Beyonce, Cardi, and Meg. Well, 100% we have the same energy for Sexy Red. She has never also ever been anywhere near Snoop's level. I don't know what Beyonce, Cardi, and Meg did, and maybe Brother Darkness can amplify that point, because I don't know.
Sometimes y'all gotta let us. Sometimes y'all gotta let
did.
us know, because we on here and we pay attention, but we can't see everything. So I don't even know Sexy Red's affiliation to things. So
Sexy Red has been a little more public and chatty about being pro-Trump, but you kind of have to really read the tea leaves of where she's coming from to understand why, because she's not going to explain it in a classic political conversational way.
Yeah.
But I think it's two things. She likes the strength that he exudes, right? So that persona thing that we see among people who like him, they like the persona. He's real, he's authentic, he seems strong, he says what he really believes. I feel like I know who he really is, right? That whole thing, right? But then she specifically spoke about the stimulus checks and thinking that Trump himself, through the government, sent her and others around her a check. And it's like, great, I love you. Send me directly a couple $100. You got me. I love you. And I definitely know there's a lot of black people, black Americans, who were like, we like Trump because he gave us money. And I think that notion completely misunderstands what happened with the stimulus, which was a Democratic idea that Trump did not want. So giving him the credit completely misunderstands. but it also aligns with his intelligent idea to sign the checks himself, so people would think they came from him. So again, he understands how to speak to the low information voter.
Yeah, and we all understand what marketing does, and announcing yourself and putting yourself everywhere in people's face over and over is going to make them think you're valuable. Like after a while, people like you when they see you for a whole bunch of for a while. So this guy has been the president for a long time and has been the talk of Fox News, CNN for what now? This is going on 12 years. He's been in this conversation in the news. He's put himself in this space. So some people are going to easily be susceptible to the programming and indoctrination that's being put out here by media. And you're going to be like, yeah, I like that guy. I see him all the time.
Screwface is pointing out that this brother was trying to equate performing for Kamala to performing for Trump, which Screwface says is one of the most ass things I've ever read. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how performing for Kamala is equivalent in some moral or political way to performing for Trump. That doesn't make any sense. So that was the other part of what the brother was saying.
Hold on,
Beyonce. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm gonna push back on. If you have, depending on, you are performing for any party is you aligning yourself with their party and political views. That's the one thing I will say. So everything that they do, someone can align you with them. That's the only thing that I'll say about that. Yeah. And there's negative things. If you're the American government, it doesn't matter. There's negative things that happen all over the world. There's what's happening in Israel and Palestine right now. So someone could look at that and be like, oh, so you're okay with that? So that's all I'm going to say about that is like politics and people's political views are different. And there's a study that came out, which I still have to do my own research. My boy Zach sent it to me, where it said that a lot of people who didn't vote at all, because there was a lot of people, like 90 million people who didn't vote in this that voted in the Biden election. A lot of their reasons why they didn't vote was because of Kamala's stance on Gaza and Biden's stance on Gaza.
Yes, Gaza.
So
and
there's a lot of people that didn't vote at all. So they might look and be like, oh, Meg Thee Stallion, you don't give a damn about what's happening over there. Beyonce, you don't give a damn. And they're aligning them with the political stance that they are viewing from that political party. Which
that's a bit of a leap.
I don't think it's a leap if that's your political view, because political view in general, if you think about it, is your own. It's your party and your community's perspective. That's what it really is when you break it down.
So I want to delicately talk about one more thing that happened over the weekend before we get out of here, because we've been on this live stream for a long time, and I appreciate all the commenters.
Everybody for staying in. Yeah,
great part.
Did we even talk about everything we were going to talk about?
Well,
we didn't talk about ASAP, right?
Well, I think we might have to jump over ASAP.
Okay.
Because we got to talk about academics.
Oh, I did not even see that. So you should run through that and what was actually being happened. I'm gonna do that to you next week. I didn't see the story. I didn't see the story.
It down. You run down all the disgusting details. This motherfucker, DJ Academics, is on a fucking stream. I think it was Twitch, right? Because he's playing a game with this 15-year-old kid. I'm gonna make y'all Google for the actual details, or you can tell each other in the comments, because the nigga is saying crazy, wild things to this 15-year-old. Like, would you do this if this situation was happening? Adult things. And it's like, why the fuck are you talking to this precious young child, a teenager, 15 years old, about these sort of adult things? What the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, like, this is beyond the normal anti-Drake shit of this sort of whole little world where we might have a little battle with somebody because I don't like what you said about so-and-so's album and blah, blah. Nah. This is horrific.
You were saying that he was going to do adult things to this 15-year-old?
He didn't say he would do it to them, but this is what grooming sounds like when you are talking about these sort of adult things with a much younger person. So you're normalizing that whole conversation with them and getting them used to the idea that we talk about this and it's cool. And it's just, it
Whoa! I
is,
just read chat comments. It says I know it's all right. Don't fully want to say it, but basically, Ack was talking very blank to a 15-year-old boy. That's
yeah.
I don't even
Yeah.
understand. I have no information on this, but that's weird. That's just like
I mean, there's a
that's
whole
crazy.
there's a video that you can see of Ack talking to this person, and then there's a subsequent conversation where Ack is trying to explain kind of what he was really meaning, but he's not apologizing, and he's not really turning it. And the kid is kind of like, "What? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?" So he doesn't really apologize. He kind of tries to weasel his way of like, "Oh, what I
Wow.
really meant was," it's so gross. And I can't even understand how you could be on a stream with teenagers talking about shit like that. Like, what is wrong with you when you start to interact with a different generation, much younger or much older? You go into a different mode. And like, I'm not talking to you about that because that's not who you are. That's not what you should be talking about. Certainly not with me. Certainly not in that sort of
I think
weirdo fucking
there's
way.
two things. I have two things to say there. One, you got to be a messed up individual anyways to kind of be able to do something like that, right? There's something within you personally, right? Let's take that. And now, so I'm going to say that he's fucked up. There's something fucked up with Ack makes it think that that's okay for him to do that as an individual. And then there's the idea of performative media that exists nowadays, and especially in that world where the wildest things, the way I crash out, these are the things that bring attention to me, and all attention is good attention. All attention equates to the same thing online because it's binary, it's just ones and zeros. So you're okay with just having that, where all attention doesn't mean the same thing when it comes to the human experience and how we feel about these people. So that's just, just hearing about it's fucked up.
You think this nigga is thinking all attention is good attention?
It's not that. I don't think this nigga's thinking. I think he lives and exists in the world where he feels all attention is good attention. Because every time I've been myself, I'm drunk or go crazy, numbers go up. These numbers go up. So if numbers go up, I get more money. My numbers go up. All this is good to me. Numbers going up is good to someone's brain. He's getting the dopamine. So I'm saying he's stuck and he's in a trap the same way that niggas was selling crack. You're in a trap. That's a trap that you're in, and you're not actually existing and being a human being and caring about community and connecting with people. We're on here doing this UNC CENAT shit, showing love to CENAT, talking to our chat, existing as grown-ups in this space where someone else is trying to literally just do whatever. And then they're now your traumatizing experiences or your just negative perspective and worldview is just coming out of here and being heightened by your need and feel for attention, your necessity for this attention, because you could shut the fuck up. Like, why are you talking to a child like that? And who's reporting this? I don't know anything about it. Is someone reporting this guy for this? Like, what? Like, this needs to be.
I have seen reports on this. I've seen video. Yeah. It's freaking wild.
And yeah, people saying that, Ack has his own issues, and we've done our jokes on him, just like we've joked on Schultz and you've joked on Drake all the time. But we be in here joking, and we put it in that space. But something this serious, someone needs to go. Someone needs, if it's that, I haven't seen it, but if it's the serious as we're talking about, that needs to be handled like for real. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not even okay. That's not what nobody does. Like I don't want to speak on that because you're not the same type of, we shouldn't be communicating. I shouldn't be at that level to be communicating to someone that does something like that. That's condemnable. And you out of here. You out of here. Yes. But I gotta watch it to know exactly what it is. It's like, that's your label now. That, like, you know what I'm saying? That's who you are. You're not like us. Like, get out of here. Like, like get out of here. Like, get out of here.
I think that's where I think that's where you have touched down the plane perfectly.
we
We're
touched it out.
gonna let it go here. We
Chat.
come back tomorrow.
Screw. Thanks for being here. We're gonna go live tomorrow. We're probably gonna maybe we convince Screw to just come into the live and say what's up to the people tomorrow if you ain't busy. We're gonna go live at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Thank y'all for being here. We're gonna do more of these live shows as well as our deep dive episodes.
Sure.
This is Rap Latte. Make sure y'all like the video right now. Everybody who's in there, there's 542 people. Like this video right now. We're going to give you 30 seconds to like this video because liking it recommends it to more people. And we need
helps us.
This is our live. UNC CENAT.
What do we get on the docket? And do you like our overlay? I made this overlay myself. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. I dig it.
Yeah, we got to see if the chat likes it. But anyways, we out. This has been Rap Latte. Toure, say bye to the people.
Peace.
Ciao.